It arrived. Everybody's talking about it right now. Of course, we're talking about the Brawler 64 from Retro Fighters. This is the N64 controller that they've been talking about on their Kickstarter. I received mine in the mail yesterday. I thought I'd throw up this video and let's see, is it better than the original? And if so, how much more? Is it worth it for you to go out and get one of these if you already have these? And if you don't have any, which one should you pick if you're a newbie? First thing I've noticed is that besides the quality, let's get right into cord length. You're a little bit shorter with the Brawler, just a few inches, but it seems strange that they didn't just go ahead and make it the same size. Now, as far as the controller itself goes, this is great. It's very light, but it's got a good sturdy feel. It doesn't feel like it's going to break or snap off. I like the fact that they gave you two Z's, so even though in the original controller you had one and you only used, no matter what, this one you got a good feel for both of them. All the buttons are great. They say the yellow buttons are bigger. I compare it and it's a little bit of a difference. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit easier to move around with grown-up hands. And as far as the analog, this thing's really, really nice. It's got a good moving feel to it. And I'm going to get into this right away, the elephant in the room that everybody's talking about, the misalignment, where on the inside, when you're holding the left bumper and you move it around, as I do this, I can feel it pushing my finger a little away. However, I played some Wave Racer, and while holding it down and moving, even though it pushes my finger a little bit, I didn't actually notice any change to the gameplay. So unless you're a competitive Wave Racer for the 64, you shouldn't have any real-world problems with it. It is compatible with the Rumble Pack and the memory save, so you can plug those right in, and it's going to be just like the old one. So let's not just take my opinion. Let's look and see how the family reacts to this.
How do you switch? Oh.
Takes a look at you, Steph. You do that? Alright, so the old controller, it was never a bad controller. I'm one of those people who kind of liked it. But I will be really honest. How does that one feel, Reagan?
Good.
A little bit more tight, a little more responsive?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have... Oh, you lost. So here's how it goes so far. We both really like the new one, right? Even though somehow the person who had the old one just won both times, huh? You beat me when I had it, I beat you when you had it. Alright, so if you had to choose, you can only have one of these to keep going to play Nintendo 64 on. Which one do you like better?
Purple.
You like the original purple one? Because it's purple, or has it just felt better?
It just feels better because that one just has two, but you can switch, and sometimes I hold it like this and use the button like that.
Then you get the perspective of a little kid. Now let's take an adult who is there, but not completely into video games, and how they like it. I brought in our resident 90s expert and Nintendo fangirl so we can get an actual opinion on the new controller. We played, as you can hear in the background, 007 GoldenEye because it's a Nintendo 64 and that's the law. Also, we did Wave Racer 64, so we got a feeling for a driving type game and how all the controls work. And of course, Dr. Mario, because it gives you a really fast, hard-hitting game that you can get into going against each other. So, when it comes to the old one and the new one,
I vote the new one. It has a more natural hand feel to it, with the joystick being on the top and both of the triggers up top. It is more relaxed in my hand. It feels more comfortable and just an overall natural feeling. I probably would have played a lot more if I had this controller.
Okay, so if you were a person who had a system already and had a bunch of these like we do, would you be willing to pay money to swap them all out for this new controller?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Like I said, it has a more natural feel to it. I can understand how this one works because with the trigger finger and the joystick right in the middle, it makes sense, but it's just an awkward positioning with the controller as to this one.
Well, there you have it.
Can I finish playing now?
Now that we see what my family thinks, let's get my opinion. I really, really like this controller. It's got a really good modern feel to it. The size is perfect. It's actually about the same size as the Xbox One controller. It's not quite as heavy because it doesn't need a battery or a battery pack, and we know that's where most of the weight of these things come from. As far as the feel of it, it's good. It feels good in your hand. It's got responsiveness to it. I like the addition of the turbo button and the clear button for different things. It makes it so, well, we don't have to get up from the couch quite as much. I do have one pet peeve. They made the yellow buttons bigger so that they're easier to access for playing games like GoldenEye, where you have to actually move around with it. The theory behind this is that we are used to the dual thumbs, and this will help us do it. So why didn't you just give us dual thumbs? I'm not necessarily saying you had to make this analog, but if you put a thumbstick right here where on the inside all it did was connect to those 4 different buttons, but I could still move around like a thumb, it probably would have been a little more effective and would have gotten us to where we want to be in modern gaming. That being said, that's a really, really small, tiny little thing that doesn't take away from this controller at all. It's still something that you should buy if you don't already have them. I know my wife said she'd replace, but she doesn't play a lot of Nintendo 64. And I play a little bit of it, but not to the extent where it's full time. If you already have a Nintendo 64 and you already have all the controllers for it, maybe get one of these just to see for yourself how it is. No problem with that. Swapping out all your controllers for these seems like a bit excessive. If you are buying a new Nintendo 64 and it doesn't have any controllers and you're deciding which way to go, at the price point that used ones are at, considering that you have to do a replacement on most of the thumbsticks anyway because they're broken, you go with one of these. They're really awesome. They're great. And if you're beginning a collection, it's good. That being said, I'm probably going to go ahead when they get the clear color versions and pick up one more of these so that when we play Nintendo 64, we don't fight over who gets this stick. And I think in the end, that really comes down to it. When you've got a couple of sticks there and you're going to pick who gets what controller before you play the games, is there one everybody's going to fight over? And probably are going to fight over this. So in that instance, this is a definite must-buy.